And welcome to the Comic Corner. My name is Damon. He is AF. Buddy, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. First question. Do you know what day it is today? Do you know what the date is today?
April 25th.
2024. The
Yes.
day the Flash went missing in crisis.
There you
I have
go.
to rep my guy. I have to rep him.
There you go. I mean, it's actually ironic because we aren't talking about the Flash today. So
Yeah.
maybe that's why, because he went missing. Here is what we're talking about today. Here's what we have for the rundown. Something is Killing the Children is back. And it's back, baby. Oh, is it back? Marvel's best book, though? Not what you expected, maybe. And Ultimate Spider-Man meets who? AF, I may need you to mute me when I talk about this book, because it may be impossible to do a spoiler-free review for it. But first, you know how I always say that, like, Hawkeye is my favorite run, or Nightwing has the potential to be my favorite run? Something is Killing the Children has something on me that I just don't acknowledge enough. Especially if being a non-Big Two book, being from Boom Studios, I just don't talk about it enough, and I really should, because this book doesn't miss. And one of the reasons for it, and we'll talk about a little bit later when we talk about the Nightwing book, is just its consistency. When you have the same team on it from book 1 to book 36, which is what we're on now. James Tynion the fourth, Werther Deladera. It's just consistent. It's so good. And this is the first issue after a hell of an arc that we just came off of. An insane arc that we just came off of that took everything away from Erica Slaughter, who's the main character of this book. It's just fantastic. And this is more of a, if you just kind of want a jumping on point, I have to say this is a jumping on point. Honestly, just start book 1. But you can read this and understand what's going on, because this is just kind of like a one-shot look into a moment of her life about 5 years ago. It reminds the readers, after all this chaos that's been going on, after all these decisions she's had to make, what makes this character so good, what makes her so cool, how she cares. And this whole world is phenomenal. We'll talk again a little bit more about it later, because Free Comic Book Day is coming up, which is fantastic. It's very exciting. And Tynion has a little bit of a moment for Boom Studios for Free Comic Book Day. But this book, again, is phenomenal. The art, incredible. It's just consistent. The key word here is consistent. I have never read an issue, or at least a volume of this book, where I was disappointed. Even in this single issue, which in the long run of things, after so much just happened, you're kind of like, well, what's going to happen now? We're taking a little bit of time to break and look back at a moment, because we have a feeling this will probably come up in the future, type of thing, right? And the only down thing I could ever say about this book is that there are long pauses between arcs, where this has been like 4 months since the last issue. But at least it's the same creative team. We're not kind of like rushing out a different artist to kind of fill in to keep it a monthly book, or rushing out a story if it's not ready yet. That's what I love about this book so much. If we'll read this someday for a comic book reading club, this is horror, this is action, this is a whole world. If you like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, maybe you'll kind of get a little bit of the vibe in here. But this is just cooler than that. I can't wait for Netflix to finally get their hands off their bums and like make this as a live action project. Or in my opinion, I think this would be amazing as like an animated project. Regardless, I love this book so much.
So I just want to tell you something. My local comic book store finally started stocking this title. So I can actually go get it now and not have to pay import fees if I had to do it the other way. But yeah, I think they've gotten the trades in from the previous volume, and yeah, so I think this is a perfect time for me to finally get into this, because every time I hear you speak about Erica Slaughter, I just like this character just becomes more and more interesting to me. So yeah, I'm down for it, dude. You've built this
Phenomenal
up and
book.
you've hyped
So
it up so much for me. So yeah, I'm definitely stepping into this world.
I hate to brag, but anytime I've told someone to read this book and they have read it, never disappoints. Never, never,
Nice.
never disappoints. A book for you that hasn't been disappointing so far. I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Green Arrow, number 10. 10?
I
10.
mean, just look at this art, dude. I mean, that itself, that 10 deserves to be right there in the top left hand corner because this book is a 10 out of 10
Ooh.
right away. I mean, I just I love the different layers that Josh Williamson just keeps adding to the storyline and the reason for Amanda Waller doing what she's doing. Every issue you find out some more information. So this, as you can see on the cover over here, you see Arrowette, you see Speedy, you see Red Canary, you see Red Arrow, and the way all of them come into play is they are part of the team that Roy took with him to fulfill the mission that Amanda Waller sent him on. Because, like we discussed it from the previous issue, is she wants every single superhero's file from Sanctuary because then she'll be able to find out what are their weaknesses and how she can basically take them down. So that's essentially why she got Roy to do what he did, and then his entire team they went off the map and nobody could find them, and that's why she reached out to Oliver Queen and sent him on this mission to go find Roy. Essentially, he found him, and it was at a Justice League facility. So there's a lot going on over there because that's why Amanda Waller needed a Justice League member to do this because nobody else could get into the premises. But yeah, it's just there's so much attention to detail that Josh ends up putting in, that Sean ends up putting into every single panel. I feel like the art just gets bigger, just gets better issue by issue. Have you decided if you are going to step into this run yet or not?
I will digitally to start it off. I will digitally because I do have to power through this time travel arc. That's going to be a power through moment. But after that, I
It's
have a
about four
feeling
issues long, so I think you'll be okay.
after that, I feel like I'll be settled in. So I definitely do still have to dip my toes in it once again after that first issue because I did read the first issue. I was like, ooh, time travel. And I'll have to come back because I've heard nothing but good things from you and with the added bonus of the Dawn of DC implications.
Yeah.
It feels like I must. It really feels like I must.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Like the Dawn of DC things, there's so many things that happens in this book that you would probably have noticed in the Birds of Prey run
Hmm.
because the worlds are so close to each other. So I definitely think the more you read this, you're gonna be like, oh, okay. They're saying that I should refer to this issue, and I probably read that already. So yeah,
I
I love
feel
it.
like there's even closer connections with the Titans book too. So that's
Yeah.
good. That's good. I'm glad you're still enjoying it. I still need to dip my toes in it. And a book I can't wait for you to just pick up in a volume because this trade, when this comes out, man, this is Marvel's best book. This right
Wow,
here is Marvel
that's bold.
Comics' best book on the shelves, and there's one more issue left. And we're talking about Avengers Twilight by Chip Zdarsky and Daniel Acuna. Holy shit. The storytelling here, the art, every single thing about it is so consistent, so good, very in your face on its political themes, very in your very in your face about essentially a lot of things in this book. But regardless, not even regardless, but because of that, it's just timely. It's good. It's a reflection of our world and where it could be going in a very apocalyptic type future. It's just so good. There is a moment in here, so I kind of tell people this, but not to scare people away. Is if you liked the story of the infamous Avengers game, the story where it's like you had the Avengers, something bad happened, world went bad, kind of the whole thing here. They have A Day in that game. Here we have H Day, which we always thought meant Hero Day. It doesn't. It means something else. And I'll let that linger on for the next
Does it
issue.
mean Hydra Day?
No.
Oh.
It's kind of in the right space a little bit. So it's just phenomenal. The way that Captain America is portrayed, the way that Kamala Khan is portrayed, she's still like the same Kamala in a way, even though in spite of everything that's gone around, we have a new Hawkeye here who's just kind of like a former military person who you could say was once brainwashed for the other side, brainwashed in quotes, convinced to think a certain way. It's great. We've been kind of looking at Marvel to be like, I know you've been doing limited series, but why? This to me is why, just because you're telling a story. And the story does have an end and it has a beginning. And it's just consistent. And I love it. It's riveting. It gets to me. It's everything I'm looking for, just a general Marvel comic story right now. This is it. This is it. And it's great.
And this is Chip's final Marvel piece before he washes his hands off the company and
For now.
goes to DC.
For now.
Yeah.
If Jim Lee can go back and forth,
Yeah,
anyone else can.
True.
It's
So this is issue 5. There's one more issue after this. So when do we think the trade comes out? Because I've been like dodging so many spoilers from this run. But I feel like the trade will probably only come out in like 3 months?
It should come out in 2 to 3 months for me. So maybe 3 to 4 for you, possibly. Hopefully sooner. Because at least Marvel, you don't have to wait for a hardcover first and then a soft cover.
Yeah.
The plus side.
Do you know what the perfect solution is to this? Marvel, if you are watching, if you are listening, Marvel Unlimited in South Africa, make it available.
Make it available worldwide. Just do it. Yeah. Just do it. I always shout out the DC Unlimited because you can get a read a book that's only a month away, so you're very caught up.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. A book I've been caught up on, and you are catching up on. Look at these segues. Superman.
I mean, dude, so I think you are 13 issues in already. I think that's the House of Brainiac first or second issue, if I'm not mistaken.
That's
but yeah,
I mean, issue.
this one it leads nicely into that in a way. But yeah, it's essentially Lex Luthor just coming to terms with all the bad that he's done in the past and trying to right the wrongs and trying to be a better human being and going. And I think one of the reasons, and it's a nice little layer that Josh Williamson has added into the book, was him sort of tackling his demons by taking down his mother. And the one point in this issue where he has to make a choice, like destroy his mother or actually put everybody else before what he wants, and then he picks the latter because Superman he's trying to get through to him in that way. So it shows Lex Luthor becoming more grounded, more how can I say, I wouldn't call him a superhero, but just like the breadcrumbs are set in that way because the arc that we've been going on in this run, it's been one that like Lex Luthor's basically trying to atone for all the sins of his past, and slowly, issue by issue, that's been happening, and it concludes in such a nice way in this book because he undoes, or he basically just tries to remedy everything that he's done in the beginning with Farm and Graft, and this Kryptonian virus that he tried to unleash on Metropolis. And I love all the flashbacks in here as well, the ones where both of them were in high or in school together in Smallville, and just like the part where Lex finds kryptonite for the first time. So yeah, those callbacks were cool, but I just love Josh Williamson's writing, and he succeeds once again in this one.
No, I totally agree. I think the big thing here, especially with Lex, and this isn't a spoiler because the next issue is starting a new event, is kind of like what is driving him to be this, right?
Yeah,
There is actually a big thing. I can't remember. I think it's an action. So the whole event starts in action, then it goes to Superman, and then it goes back to action, and then back to Superman for the House of Brainiac event, just so you know, is what is kind of driving Lex to be better? Because we've seen so many times in the past where it's like, oh, Lex Luthor, here he goes. He's trying to be better. Ah, just kidding. Like,
yeah,
what's the difference here that Superman sees? And to me, that is them bringing back his daughter, right? And it is a little bit of a trope in a way because you see a lot of times in many stories where you have a bad guy and then they have a kid and that changes them, right? I think that is definitely the case here, but in a good way because Lex is a character that is so deep that you can do that with. And
yeah,
then eventually, if you get bored with it, if you get tired of it, if you just want to bring the evil Lex Luthor back, you can. Like, there's a way to do that. This isn't like a permanent change, but it's a good way to do at least do a change here that I think Joshua Williamson is writing very well.
yeah. 100%. I fully agree with that. And yeah, just that the ending of this book that basically segues into the House of Brainiac event, with Lobo just like showing up randomly, and then that final page, because obviously Clock is he's thinking to himself, but he's thinking out loud, and yeah, there has to be a reason for everything. There
It's
has
got
to
to be
be
a
a
reason.
yeah,
So the underlying theme here, kind of kids, they make you better.
yeah,
The underlining theme in this book, kids, they kind of make you better. Ultimate Spider-Man #4. Ultimate Spider-Man in general. I cannot say enough good things about this book. I've seen some people say absolutely nothing happens in this issue. In a way, yeah, there isn't any action at all. And I still give it a 10 out of 10. It's great. I love this book. I love this book so much. This is the first issue that we don't have Marco Cicchetto on in the art. And honestly, it was still phenomenal. The art is still great. AF, I'm going to have you mute me here if you want to completely avoid spoilers. Are you ready? Because I'm about to drop a big spoiler in this book.
you can go ahead. You can go ahead. By the
Okay?
time I read it, I might have forgotten. So
Yeah, probably, because at least this wasn't the solicits.
yeah,
So, we know who the Green Goblin is. It's Harry. Big shocker. What happened in the last issue is Harry invites Peter and they go get dinner. MJ comes along. Harry brings his wife. Who do you think his wife is?
I actually have no idea who's this Gwen.
It's Gwen Stacy, because in a world where there was
Nice.
no Spider-Man, Gwen Stacy is still alive. So
Yeah.
Harry and Gwen Stacy are a couple. Very rich, very powerful. Gwen just kind of owns a company, is very CEO minded, and is kind of, testing MJ a lot because she has her businesses and she was a model in this universe at one point. And Uncle Ben and J. Jonah Jameson are starting their paper company, possibly trying to get some financial backing behind it. They also have a new name for this paper company. But we do get a big moment in here. I wasn't expecting in this issue. When it dropped, I was like, whoa, we're doing this. Uh, Regardless, I won't spoil that for you because that was very cool. This book's great. I just freaking love this book. This is like a very grounded in a universe that is so beyond grounded.
Yeah, I
Like
saw
so
in
incredibly not
your
grounded. This book, this series so far, even though it started off a little like, oh, we're getting a little crazy here. I said I wanted a grounded grounded Spider-Man to go through this book. We're getting that. And you are getting that. And it's just the little moments. They're so well written. It's great. I can't recommend this book enough. If you are
yeah,
a Spider-Man fan who has been wanting different, you're not happy with the current Spider-Man runs, all 47 of them, read this one. you'll love it. Even if you don't really know what's going on in the Ultimate Universe, you kind of get through that first issue. After that, it's just focused very, very particularly just on Spider-Man, just on Peter Parker. It's great.
I saw that when you the review that was posted on the Agents of Fandom account.
Which is from
When I
TJ,
saw,
by the way. TJ Fat
yeah,
4.
okay, yeah, when I saw the 10 out of 10 rating, I was like, wow, that is quite insane. But what I noticed from that small little clip as well, is that it takes Spider-Man back to his roots.
Mm-hmm.
So can you just speak a bit about what that essentially means? Like, is this going back to like what he used to do in his early years, or okay,
Yeah, so TJ was the one who did our quick social media review for this book, but everything he said, I completely agreed with. 100%. So when he
okay,
says take Spider-Man back to his early roots, it's just the small level nature of things. It's not grand scale, and it's the personal connection between his responsibility of his family and his friends and everything around it. And he's just kind of like looking back at himself, like, what am I responsible for here?
yeah,
Right? Love it. It's great. So far, so good. I can't I really like I can't recommend this book enough. Like, absolutely. Let me just shout out the artists here because I thought they did a phenomenal job. It was David Messina. David Messina came in for Marco Checchetto, which is not an easy task by any means. And although it wasn't Marco Checchetto art, Messina is able very well to keep the character designs that were set forth in the first 3 issues, keep them consistent, put a little bit of his art style into it, but didn't change the core design that we have here. So it's not a drastic, whoa, this feels like I just stepped into a new world with this art, right? It's very well done.
no, nice. Just shout out Fat Thor though. Like, what a guy, what a
What a
guy.
guy. What a guy. Gonna have him back on the show at some point. I know he filled in for you a couple times when you were having some camera issues, but we're gonna have him back on the show again. Absolutely. Other books I wanted to shout out real quick. I have to with this one. This is the finale of Zoe Thorgood's Hack Slash Back to School. This is the 4th issue. It was a 4 out of 4 miniseries. And I know it's a 4 out of 4 miniseries, but I give it a 10 out of 10. I am not a hack slash person at all. I came into this series completely blind, knowing absolutely nothing. Didn't even know that this was a moment in time with this character that was set in the past, far beyond everything that Tim Seeley ever made. And it's just so good. It's
Dude,
so good.
dude, what
Yes.
is that on her face?
Yeah, it's exactly what you
What?
think it is on her face.
What?
This is a adult comic book.
Oh
This is very
wow,
much an adult comic book. Kids do not read. But Zoe Thorogood just made this so welcoming to new readers. And I was talking to people who have read all of Hack Slash, all the omnibus. And they're like, okay, what did you think of this? Did you like this work in the continuity? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Because what Zoe does at the end is make it so it works in continuity at the very, very end. And it is heart wrenching, is devastating. It is very open. And it's like, wow, I want to read like I want to read more of this. I know this is Zoe's first time digging into this character, and there's a little bit of a tease at the end for her to return to this character to continue the story in a way. But
nice.
like, man, Tim Seeley, whatever Zoe Thorogood wants to write the second volume to this story, just give it to her because I would read it, and because she does the writing and the art for this book. She does everything for it. And I love her art style. I absolutely adore her art style. If you haven't read her kind of like her autobio book, absolutely do that. It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth. It's
Yeah.
so good. It's so good. So I wanted to shout that one out real quick. And a book that I kind of brought up earlier. And I've been kind of teasing this a little bit. I've been teasing this a little bit. This is Nightwing's latest issue. I think it's 113. Issue 300, by the way, if
Oh,
you're
wow.
including all the books. So kind of something I've been saying when I'm talking about something is killing the children, when I was talking about Ultimate Spider-Man, is the consistency of the look. It is very difficult when you have a book like this where Bruno Redondo was on it for so long and then steps away for a bit. And then you kind of have fill-in artists in for a while. And then you have different fill-in artists in. And then another fill-in artist in. And it gets to a point where the writing is still there, but it feels like I stepped into a different world when it comes to the art style. Because this book has, even when you have a different artist, they tried to keep the same look of the characters. This one, when Daniel DeNiccolo came in to do this issue, this very special issue, this issue 300, it felt off. And it's not that his art is bad. His art's very good. It's just significantly different from everything this series has been. The art, you've read this first volume. We did it for the
Yep.
book club. It's very clean. The colors are there. Everyone looks good. DeNiccolo's style is more anime, more manga, sharper faces, sharper chins, and that's just not what this is. There's a moment where Dick is kind of sitting in his chair, looking back over his shoulder, and I'm like, "Ooh, this doesn't even look like Dick Grayson anymore, at least in this context." Sure, if this was like a different book, fine, but not in this series. It just felt out of place. Again, the art is still good. It just, for a big issue like this, for an issue 300, for the last issue before the final arc, this is kicking off the final arc. This is a big celebration. There was just something where it was like, man, I wish Bruno was here for the whole book. At least this whole issue. Because Bruno Redondo does come back for 2
Yeah.
pages in this issue.
I was going to ask now
And
because I see his name
you
is
see his name.
listed.
He comes back for
Yeah.
2 pages in this issue. And there's another name you'll see there. It's Marv Wolfman.
Yep.
And this is where this issue kind of saved itself for me. And again, Tom Taylor's writing in here is still consistent throughout the entire thing. Still very well written. This is a very emotional issue. I read this in a comic shop. I teared up a bit. Everyone laughed at me. I don't care. I wear my heart on a sleeve. And this one, there's a page in here. So as you saw in the first volume, that there's the George and Marvis pizza.
Yeah.
And this whole run started when George was still alive. At this point, George has passed because this issue came out last week. So they go back to the pizza place as like a big celebration, and George isn't there anymore. So they actually had Marv
Oh.
Wolfman come in to write his dialogue to Dick Grayson, almost as like his goodbye to George in a way, but it was just really touching.
Oh, wow.
So
That
that
sounds
got
so
me
good.
choked up. It's a very nice moment in here. And I'm very glad Bruno Redondo's coming back to do the final 6 issues of this, because if he didn't, I don't know, it just wouldn't have felt the same. But like those last few pages, it just felt like, we're back, right? It's like, this world. It was almost like I don't know. There's something about the art style for me that just like wasn't sitting right, and I think it was just the very different aesthetic it was giving me. And I know that's such a challenge in this space. It is such a challenge, and sometimes you can do it creatively, right? Where we saw it in Birds of Prey, where I think it was the 4th or 5th issue where they had a different artist come in, but it was through the perspective of the Megara, which is like this godlike being. So everything would look a little different, right? You have to kind of think about it in a certain perspective. There was no story reason for the art to be as different as it was.
Yeah.
I think that to me
Does
is the biggest
does it
issue.
does it take the reader out of the story though? The
For me, it
art?
did. For me, it did. For someone else who I was actually chatting with in the comic shop as well, they agreed with me. Not everyone agrees with me. There's some people who really like Dinico's art, which is awesome. I really like his art too. Just for me, the inconsistency, the very stark, drastic change from this whole series to that was just like, whoa. It felt like a backup story type art, where it was like, oh, this is just another story, and it's not. This is supposed to be in the main story. It was like, oh, okay, just gotta get through it, and then you go back and you see Bruno Redondo's art back in like essentially the last 2-3 pages, and it's like, oh well, big difference.
At least so it seems like the issue ends off with Redondo's art.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess you end off on a high, so you know what's coming next.
Yep. All right. Last book we're talking about, or I'll talk about at least. Okay. Okay. Jackpot Black Cat. I'll be honest. I read this twice. I had to. Because the first time I read this, I was at my comic book shop. And I was just kind of skimming through it. I was like, man, this story completely lost me. What is going on here? What in the world is going on here? So I got home last night and I was like, let me, without all the noise around me, let me just sit down and read this again. Was it better a second read? Slightly. Yeah. Slightly. And I think to me, I mean, there's so many things in here. It's like you have the Paul factor, you have just MJ being a superhero factor. And then for me, the reason I'm picking this up, I know the whole bit with me at the comic shop is Jackpot, but the reason I picked this up is because I really like what Felicia Hardy has kind of become over the last 4 years, thanks to Jed MacKay. And it reminds me why I really like Jed MacKay writing her. There's, I don't know. It's okay. It's
Dude,
a
you
little
sound so
disappointing.
conflicted.
I am, because I don't like to be mean. I don't like to be too negative. But this just was not it. Because we've seen MJ and Black Cat stories done twice already in the past. Even when MJ had superpowers, before she started calling herself Jackpot, Jed MacKay wrote it. And it was still about the personal connection between the two. And after everything that those few issues have kind of built up between the two, the friendship that they've really grown together out of the close moments they've had, feels like it's kind of been thrown away at this point. Either that or they're playing with us. Because by the end of this issue, Felicia's kind of like almost a little bit turning her back on MJ because her new girlfriend is kind of a super villain too. And it's like, all right. Okay.
Are you calling it after this issue, or are you going to keep
I'm
on
going to
reading?
shrug through it. Just because I kind of want to see what the end result is. Almost like, what was the purpose? Honestly. Because the last 2 times we've had this, it's because the two had to deal kind of like with their friendship with each other. Those are like the last 2 stories we've had with them. And this one is just kind of like, let's do it now that she has a superhero name. It's like, all right. Okay. I still have no idea. Absolutely no idea how MJ's powers work. Paul hacked the thing, I guess, at one point in the Jackpot solo and just jailbroken it. So now she could just hit the thing as many times as she wants. And it's just like, she's like, oh, I got this power set. That's cool, but that won't help. Let's try it again. Boom. Oh, now I can like manipulate shadows. Sure.
Anything goes. You basically became Gaia from the MCU.
Just a more random version. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Big week coming up. Big week coming up. Let's be hyped. Let's be positive. Let's get excited.
Yep.
First Saturday of May, ladies and gentlemen. Free Comic Book Day. Let's talk about the do's and don'ts of Free Comic Book Day real quick. Do, go to your local comic shop. Don't be a dick. Do, buy some books. Don't pick up free books and leave. The whole point of Free Comic Book Day is two things. One, support your local comic book shop. That's kind of the whole point. Is get people there to buy things, not just pick up free books and leave, but to go get a trade, get a comic. Hey, you like Spider-Man? Well, go pick up Ultimate Spider-Man. They'll probably like that one more. You like Superman? Plethora of options. You like Batman? Ugh. But if you like Batman, hey, you have plethora of options too. So that's kind of the whole point of Free Comic Book Day. You have the do's, you have the don'ts, just be good. But here's kind of like the 5 big books that I picked out that I was like, yeah, these are kind of the ones that I am looking for. We have the Absolute Power teaser from DC. You got the Blood Hunt teaser from Marvel, even though the first issue of Blood Hunt would be out by then. But again, the whole point of it is to get newer readers to come and be like, hey, these books are coming out. Let's go get these books. So you have a new issue of Blood Hunt. We have a Worlds of James Tynion the Fourth. Talks about some of these killing children and all this other stuff that he does. And the Energon universe has been going on, but here's a big one for both of us. Dying Inside by Pete Wentz.
Dude, I cannot wait to get into this. I know that like you are all over the Gerard Way, Umbrella Academy, and anything else that Gerard Way puts out, but I love Fallout Boy with my entire existence. So, Pete Wentz, I know you are an avid listener of the Comic Corner podcast. So, just know that I'm going to buy every single book you put out.
Well, it's a graphic novel, so it's one, but hopefully there will be more. This is
They,
a piece to it.
he's stepping his toes into it. This dude's gonna get the bug, and it's just gonna keep on coming.
So a bunch of good stuff out. This is just a dabble of it. There's so many books, all ages too. So definitely check those out. Bring your kids, bring any younger cousins, siblings, whatever. That's the whole point to Free Comic Book Day. It really is. Just enjoy yourself, go support the local comic shops, go around. Please do not go to the shop, pick up 3 books, leave, come back with a different hat. Like, don't do that. If
Don't
they
be
have
that
a 3
guy.
book limit, get the 3 book limit. What a lot of places do is they have a 3 book limit. Unless you buy some books, then you can push
Yeah,
that up to like 6. So there you go.
yeah.
And before we
My
go, I know you have a Comic Con you're going to.
Yeah, just before that, my local comic book store, they actually incentivize your purchases. So if you spend over an X amount, then you get a free gift. If you spend a bit more, you get a free gift. You get some extra comic books. You might even get a Funko Pop. So
Ooh.
yeah, there's some nice incentives. Readers Den comic book shop in Cape Town. But yeah, as you said, this weekend is Comic Con Cape Town, and it starts on Saturday, ends next week Wednesday. It's a 5-day event, and yeah, there's going to be some amazing comic book creators. We have the Dan Didio, international comic book writer and publisher, mostly known for his stint at DC. I can't even call it a stint; it was like 20 years. But yeah, he was
Longer
basically
than a stint.
the brain trust of DC Comics. But when somebody's in a position too long, then there are low points as well. And I mean, I don't think any of us is going to forget the new 52 run of DC. So yeah, he was present for that one. But yeah, I'm definitely keen to pick his brain on all sorts of DC events that's happened, and even with Absolute Power that's coming up later on this year, and Absolute Comics, which is essentially going to be DC's version of Marvel's Ultimate Comics. So yeah, maybe he has some knowledge to speak on that one. Yeah, then we have David Barron, comic book artist, Jason Masters, DC Marvel artist as well. John Layman, comic book writer, Carl Mustard, he's an artist as well. And then Todd Nauk, comic book artist, and he actually designed the cover for the X-Men 97 prelude that came out about a month ago. So yeah, I'm pretty psyched to meet all of them. There are some celebs that's joining: Sean Gunn, Mr. Kraglin himself.
Sean Gunn is just
So,
at every Comic-Con these days.
and I saw that Veronica Taylor's there as well. She was the first English dub voice for Ash Ketchum in
Hmm.
Pokemon. And yeah, so I'm totally psyched to meet them, and just enjoy myself for the next 5 to 6 days.
There you go. AF, before we go, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, I am at AF Parker 642 on all social media platforms. So yeah, you'll probably see me tweeting a bit about Comic Con over the next couple of days. But yeah, other than that, I chat sport, I chat movies, I chat TV shows and comic books.
Well, we have a big announcement for us because you can find us on Twitter at the Comic Corner Pod. There you go, where we'll
Yeah.
be tweeting comic stuff. Make sure to follow the Agents of Fandom Twitter account as well. You can find us on Twitter at the Comic Corner Pod. You can find us on Instagram at Agents Fandom. You can find us on TikTok at Agents Fandom. Agents Fandom everywhere. Make sure you follow us on all the socials. There you go. If you're our video people, you see it on there. Agents Fandom TikTok and Twitter. Agents of Fandom everywhere else. And before we go, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell. Follow us wherever we are. We have so many shows, so much content these days. It is crazy. The regular Agents of Fandom show, Fandom Academy, The Critics, Cinema Sibs. So many shows over here at the Agents of Fandom YouTube channel and the Agents of Fandom podcast. That'll do it for today's issue of the Comic Corner. Make sure you go to your local comic shops and don't forget, go read some comics.